My home screen changes when I'm working, relaxing, traveling, or even sleeping without me doing anything. And not just the screen, but also how apps behave and who can reach me. This is done using focus modes that automatically sync across all of your devices. And most people don't even bother with this because they think it's too complicated to use, but not only is it easy to set up, but it's also probably the biggest return on investment that you can do with your devices. I'm going to start by recreating my work focus mode from start to finish, and once that's done, we'll go over my other ones. So to create a focus mode, you just come here to Settings, Focus, and then tap the plus sign on the top right. You're going to find plenty of presets here, but let's go with Custom and name it Work. First, you have the option to silence notifications of whatever and whoever you want while this focus mode is enabled. So let's start with people. You can decide who's allowed to contact you, or if it's easier, who is not allowed to. So for me, on my work mode, I only allow my immediate family to text and call me, and everyone else goes to the notification center and I'll see them once I'm not on my work mode. But I do allow repeated calls as they could be emergencies. Next, we have the apps, and for me, these are the real offenders. The biggest of which is probably WhatsApp. There's no real blue versus green bubble thing here in Europe, everyone just uses WhatsApp, and I don't have anything related to work on it, so it's the perfect app to block. I also block Reddit and Twitter, and I don't block Instagram or TikTok because I don't even have them installed. Those algorithms are just way too good, and I'm honestly not strong enough to use them in moderation, so I simply don't use them at all. Then we have options here, and for me, I don't want my notifications to show up on lock screen, I want it to hide the badges and always silence notifications. I don't really care about dimming the lock screen, so I leave that one unchecked. Then we can customize how the home and the lock screen look on each focus mode, as well as the watch face if you have an Apple Watch. Personally, I don't change my lock screen, but I do change the home screen, and if we press on choose, you see we have here all of our screens. And the way this works is that you have to manually build each screen. So if we exit out of this, you see I have all these different screens. But if I go into my work focus mode, all I have is the one I chose for that focus mode. So if we go back, you can choose yours, and if you don't want any of the others to be visible, just uncheck them. Now, as you can see, I don't have any apps visible on my home screen. I always launch them via the Spotlight search, and in case you didn't know, you can remove apps from your home screen without deleting them. Just press and hold and then tap Remove App and then Remove from home screen. The only apps visible are the ones I use all the time across all different modes, and they live here on the dock. For me, it's mostly about widgets, especially now that they're interactive. Speaking of which, I have the Fantastical widget on top. I really like the way it looks, and it's interactive, so you can just press on different days and it'll show you what you have going on in that day. I have this on most of my focus modes, but the difference is that I only see my work calendar on the work mode. And I'll show you how to do that later on in the video. Then I have a widget to the videos I'm currently working on in Notion. So if I think of something that I want to add to a specific video, I just tap on that video and write it there. Down here at the bottom, I have a widget from Parcel which tracks all of my packages and automatically picks up new ones from Amazon. And to the right, we have a widget to my inbox in Todoist, which is my task management app of choice. I have this same widget across all of my focus modes because I'm always adding tasks and ideas to it as the day goes by, so I always want it to be in the same spot. Then, if you have an Apple Watch, you can do the same for the watch face. The only focus mode I use this on is on workout mode, where I have it so that it shows my heart rate and exercise rings. Then we have the schedule. So when you want to change focus modes, you can come to the control center and tap on focus and choose one from the list. But you can also set it so that it turns on automatically based on the settings you specify. And you can do this in one of two ways. The first is to add a schedule, and now we have to choose what must happen for this focus mode to get turned on. You can set it based on time, so let's say you're typically at work Monday through Friday 9 to 5. You can set it so that during those work hours, your phone will always be on work mode. If you have a set work location like an office, then you can set it so that every time you arrive to the office, your work mode gets turned on and gets turned back off when you leave. And lastly, you can also set your trigger to be an app so that every time you open a certain app, it'll turn on that focus mode and turn it back off when you close it. This might not make sense for a work focus mode, but it does make sense for activities where you use and stay on a certain app like working out. And then there's one last option that I must say was not working well last time I tried it, and that is smart activation. And what this does is that it activates your different focus modes at, and I quote, relevant times throughout the day based on signals like your location, which apps you're using, and more. I'm sure this will only get better in time, but last time I tried it, I ended up giving up on it as it simply wasn't working well. Alright, so remember when I said that depending on which focus mode I have on, I don't see my work calendar? That's because you can actually change how an app behaves while you're on a focus mode by using focus filters. So I can go on Fantastical or Calendar, and now I can choose which calendars I want to be visible on this focus mode. And because I'm working, all I want to see is my work and appointments calendar, which covers doctor's appointments, dentists, etc. And when I'm on my personal mode, I check all of them but the work one. So now if we come back to our home page and we toggle on work mode, you see here that all my other events are no longer visible. And if I go into the personal mode, the opposite happens. Now I can see only my personal events and none of my work events. And the best part is that you can also do this with email. So if you have a work and a personal email, you can just come here to mail and choose which ones you want visible. I take the same approach as with the calendar. No work emails on personal time and no personal emails on work time. And now if we open the mail app, only emails that were sent to the addresses we allowed are going to show up here. You can still check the other emails if you want here, but you're not going to get any notifications. And if you use Safari, you can also set profiles. So let's say you set your work hours to be 9 to 5. Now every time you open up Safari on your phone or any of your other Apple devices during that time, you'll be on your work profile. That includes all your browser history, extensions, bookmarks, etc., which is really nice and something I really wish Arc had. And there's a few other app and system filters, but I don't really use them. And before we move on to how I set up all of my other focus modes, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Ugreen, and their new NAS device. This is the Ugreen NAS Sync DXP 4800 Plus, a 4-bay storage solution that can fit up to 96 terabytes of data. It has 2 NVMe slots for ultra-fast caching and 8 gigs of RAM that can be expanded to 64. It also has an SD card reader so you can offload footage straight to the NAS, and it's powered by a 12th gen 5-core Intel processor. And if all of that wasn't enough, this model is equipped with a 10 gig and 2.5 gigabit LAN ports, which at this price point is unheard of. This means you can reach transfer speeds of 1250 megabytes per second when transferring locally on a 10 gig connection. To put that in perspective, that's 10 times what I get with my gigabit internet plan to Google Drive or Dropbox. The NAS is much more than just network attached storage. You can access your files from anywhere, watch movies, organize and view your photos, and even use AI to create photo albums that intelligently identify faces and places. And all of this runs locally so your data does not get uploaded to any online servers. And instead of having to get multiple apps for each individual thing, you can do it all from a single Ugreen app, which also has a built-in security manager that protects data in real time and performs scheduled scans to prevent virus intrusions. If you're interested in one of the many Ugreen NAS models, then check out the link in the description where you'll get 35% off the regular price until May 9th. And a big thank you to Ugreen for sponsoring today's video. So let's now go over my other focus modes, starting with travel. And things look a little different here. Up top we have a widget from Tripsy, which is an app that me and my fiance use to plan our trips. And everything goes here, so every time I pick up my phone when I'm traveling, I know what other activities we have planned. And as you can see, we've already started working on our trip to the Azores in the summer. Then down here, I have another smart stack. This one has the weather widget, and if we swipe down, we have a widget to add a new task in my Todoist. Since I'm traveling, most of what I add here is stuff that I want to do for this channel, like video ideas. I just add them all here in my inbox to look at when I'm back. And then I also have here the only other 3 apps that I use when I'm traveling, which is Google Maps, Uber, and this currency converter. And I also have a personal mode like I mentioned earlier. And the main thing about this mode is that I don't allow notifications from work apps like Slack and Teams, and my work email is blocked. As for the home screen, we have my Duolingo widget on top. Then I have this widget stack here that has a widget from Track that tells me when new episodes of my favorite shows come out. And another one from IMDb that shows me what trailers are trending. And in case you're wondering how this is made, you simply drag and drop a widget on top of the other. And then I also have a widget to Audible. I was recommended this book by a friend, so I'm giving it a try. And if we swipe on it, we have the same Todoist widget on the bottom, and then the apps I use the most when I'm relaxing. I also have one for Do Not Disturb, which is for when I'm doing deep work, so I have all notifications blocked, and if I go on it, you can see that I don't have a single thing on the screen. Well, not really, because you still need to have something to create a home screen, so I just left this here. So if I'm doing something that requires deep concentration and I pick up my phone out of habit, I'm then greeted with an empty home screen and I immediately realize that I'm supposed to be working. I also have one for working out, which is mainly used to change the watch face to show my activity rings. And lastly, I have one for when I'm recording that blocks all notifications so that I'm not interrupted, and it also cleans up the screen. And you can see that I only ever have one page for each focus mode. But if we swipe to the left, all these widgets here are static to this page, which Apple calls the Today view. And I use it for widgets that I always like to keep handy regardless of what focus mode I have on. So on top there's the time zones of the people I work with, then my steps for the day, my car in case I want to check if it's locked. It always is, but I just need to double check. My activity widget and the weather forecast. And when we scroll down, there's actually a different type of widget made only for this page. These are different because they're dynamic. So you see I have a Google Maps widget that shows the ETA to get home or work, and a Fantastical widget that shows the time until my next event starts. And to add more, we can tap Edit and then Customize. But there's one focus mode we're missing that behaves different from all the others, and that's Sleep Mode. Because Apple integrates the Sleep Focus mode with the Health app. If we go on Sleep and scroll down to Sleep Schedule, you'll see it says that you can manage it in the Health app. And if we tap that link, it's going to take us to the Health app where we can set up our sleep schedule. And you can have different schedules for both the weekdays and the weekends. And if we go back to Settings and click on Schedule, we have the Wind Down option. So if you set the bedtime at midnight and a wind down of 30 minutes, your sleep mode gets triggered at 11:30. And now we can customize some additional settings for sleep mode. You can choose the screen just like the others, but now there's also an additional options menu here. This is where you can choose to have a fully black screen and whether or not you want it to show the time. That's exactly what I want, so for me I keep the sleep screen toggled on and show time off. This for me is huge because I always read at night before bed until I'm sleepy, and the last thing I want is to know what time it is because it affects my sleep. And I also don't want to accidentally see the time in the middle of the night because I know I'll be doing all these calculations of how much I slept and how much I can still sleep. Those are the focus modes I use, but I've seen others use them for watching sports, meditating, cooking, driving, gaming, even walking the dog. There's a ton of possibilities. Alright, so we went over how to switch focus modes in the control center and also by setting up a schedule. But there's a few other ways as well. The first is by setting up a button like this here that you can just press to toggle between different focus modes. And to do this, we first have to go to the Shortcuts app and create a shortcut for each focus mode we want to have in the button. So let's say you want to have a work, personal, travel, and do not disturb mode. Then you press the plus icon at the top, add action, set focus mode, and choose your focus. Then repeat this for the 3 other focus modes. Now we need to put them in a folder, and to do that you just go back a page, press the top right icon to create a folder and give it a name. Then go into the shortcuts page and drag each of the shortcuts we just made into that folder. Now it's time to add the widget, and to do that we just hold anywhere on the screen to add the widget and then choose the Shortcuts app. Then scroll to the right and you can choose between a folder of 2, 4 or 8 shortcuts. We had 4 focus modes, so we're going to choose a folder of 4. Then press and hold the widget and tap Edit Widget and you're going to see the folder you just created. Just tap it and now you can switch between your focus modes at the press of a button. I don't really use this because I would much rather have it automated, and for me this would honestly just be a trap as it's just too easy to switch between modes. I would much rather use something like the built-in schedule system, but if you want even more control and customization, then you can set up automations inside the Shortcuts app. It seems intimidating, but once you get used to it, it's very simple and way more customizable. You just come here to automations, press the plus icon and decide your trigger. In other words, what needs to happen for a certain focus mode to be turned on. To give you an example, I have a recording focus mode that gets triggered when my phone connects to this one Bluetooth device here in the studio. So to recreate that, we just choose Bluetooth as the trigger, then which Bluetooth device, for me it's this one here, and we want it to run immediately. Then we press Next, New Blank Automation, Add Action, and Set Focus. Then we simply choose what focus mode we want and whether we want it to turn on or off. And that's it. Then you can do the same but in reverse to turn off that focus mode when you disconnect from that device. But that's not all. You can also combine actions. So for me, when I connect to that Bluetooth device, it also turns on the lights in the studio. And while all of this is cool, my favorite part and why I set all of these up in the first place is to make better use of the action button. Because you can map the button to do different things based on which focus mode you have on, which takes this to a whole new level. And I went over all of that as well as all of my shortcuts in this video here. So I'll see you there.